Welcome to Econ 101, Principles of Microeconomics here at BTW University College. Over this lecture series, we will establish the foundational frameworks that govern market theory, consumer choice, and firm behavior. Microeconomics is fundamentally about understanding how rational decision-makers, whether households or firms, navigate scarcity to allocate finite resources, determine equilibrium prices, and influence overall market outcomes. Use this session to build the analytical scaffolding needed to think like an economist. Let's begin with the basic economic problem. Because resources are limited while wants are virtually unlimited, people have to make trade-offs. That is where opportunity cost and marginal thinking come in. This slide also introduces the production possibilities frontier and the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomics, setting up the logic we'll use throughout the lecture. At the heart of all economic reasoning lies the core problem of scarcity. Human wants are essentially unlimited, but the productive resources available to satisfy them are finite. This tension forces rational agents to make choices, meaning every decision carries an opportunity cost, the value of the next best alternative forgone, covering both explicit expenditures and implicit trade-offs. We analyze these trade-offs macrostructurally through the production possibilities frontier, which maps out productive efficiency and constraints. At the individual level, economists analyze choices through marginal thinking. Rational actors evaluate incremental changes, expanding an activity up to the point where marginal benefit equals or exceeds marginal cost. While macroeconomic studies aggregate performance across the entire economy, our micro-focus centers squarely on individual markets, households, and firms. Earning to buyer behavior. The law of demand establishes a fundamental inverse relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded. As price falls, consumer surplus, the economic welfare represented by the area underneath the demand curve and above the market price, expands. When teaching or analyzing demand, the critical distinction to enforce is the difference between a movement along the curve and a shift of the curve. A change in the good's own price causes a movement along a fixed demand curve. Conversely, changes in non-price determinants, such as consumer income, differentiating normal from inferior goods, prices of related goods, substitutes and complements, buyer tastes, expectations, or market size, shift the entire demand curve outward or inward. On the production side, the law of supply dictates a direct positive relationship between market price and quantity supplied. Higher prices incentivize existing producers to expand output and attract new entrants. Assuming all other factors remain constant, the supply curve reflects sellers' marginal cost schedules, giving rise to producer surplus, the area above the supply curve and below the clearing price p(x). This surplus measures economic welfare by calculating the aggregate difference between what sellers actually receive and the minimum price they would have been willing to accept. Non-price supply shifters include input prices, technological advancements, government interventions such as taxes and subsidies, producer expectations, and the total number of active sellers in the market. When we bring demand and supply together, the price mechanism coordinates market participants toward market equilibrium. Equilibrium occurs at the price where the quantity demanded exactly equals the quantity supplied, clearing the market. If price sits above this level, excess supply creates a surplus, exerting downward competitive pressure on prices. If price sits below equilibrium, excess demand generates a shortage, driving prices upward. Through comparative statics, we can trace how shifts in demand or supply change equilibrium benchmarks. In competitive equilibrium, total economic surplus, the sum of consumer surplus and producer surplus, is maximized, representing optimal allocative efficiency. Elasticity allows us to measure how responsive buyers and sellers are to changes in key economic variables. Price elasticity of demand, PED, calculated via the point formula and identifies whether consumers are elastic, inelastic, or unit elastic relative to price fluctuations. The total revenue test demonstrates this mechanism in action. When demand is elastic, increasing price decreases total revenue, whereas under inelastic demand, raising price increases total revenue. Beyond price elasticity, income elasticity of demand, YED, classifies goods as normal, positive coefficient, or inferior, negative coefficient, while cross-price elasticity of demand, XED, quantifies relationship structures, identifying substitute goods through positive values and complementary goods through negative values. Consumer choice theory explains how individuals decide what to buy when budgets are limited. Consumers aim to maximize utility, balancing marginal satisfaction against price trade-offs. The indifference curve and budget constraint together show the point where preferences and affordability meet, while the formula on the right summarizes the optimal choice mathematically. Turning to firm behavior and production theory, the short run is defined by the presence of fixed inputs, leading to the law of diminishing returns once marginal product, MPL, begins to decline. Total costs are divided into total fixed costs, TFC, and total variable costs, TVC, from which we derive average total cost, ATC, average variable cost, AVC, and marginal cost, MC. A crucial geometric property is that the marginal cost curve must intersect both AVC and ATC at their respective minimum points, which marks the firm's technically efficient scale. In the long run, all inputs become variable, and firms expand, contract, enter, or exit industries depending on whether they experience economies, constant returns, or dice economies of scale. Perfect competition serves as our benchmark for idealized market efficiency. This market structure assumes many small buyers and sellers, homogeneous products, perfect information, price-taking behavior, and zero barriers to entry or exit. In the short run, a competitive firm maximizes profit where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, but must immediately shut down if price drops below average variable cost. If price sits between AVC and ATC, the firm operates at a loss in the short run to cover fixed overhead. Over the long run, entry and exit dynamics eliminate economic profits, driving price down to the minimum of ATC. This unique condition achieves both productive efficiency, producing at lowest unit cost, and allocative efficiency, pricing at marginal cost. Monopoly is the opposite extreme, where a single seller faces the whole market and can set price above marginal cost. That creates deadweight loss and reduces welfare compared with competitive markets. The slide also introduces price discrimination, which lets a monopolist capture more consumer surplus under certain conditions. Between pure competition and monopoly lie monopolistic competition and oligopoly. Monopolistically competitive industries feature product differentiation and low barriers. Firms make zero economic profits in the long run, but operate with excess capacity rather than at minimum ATC. Oligopolistic markets contain a small number of interdependent firms, requiring game theory to model strategic decision-making. Using payoff matrices, we identify dominant strategies and locate the Nash equilibrium, a stable outcome where no participant has an incentive to unilaterally deviate. This framework illustrates the inherent instability of cartels, where the mutual benefit of collusive agreements is constantly threatened by individual incentives to cheat and expand output. Markets fail to allocate resources efficiently when property rights are ill-defined or consumption attributes break standard market assumptions. Externalities drive a wedge between private and social accounting. Negative externalities cause market overproduction, whereas positive externalities result in underproduction. These can be corrected via Pigouvian taxes, subsidies, or private bargaining under the Coase theorem when property rights are clear and transaction costs are minimal. Public goods introduce market failure through their non-excludable and non-rivalrous nature, which invites the free rider problem and prevents private markets from supplying socially optimal quantities. Finally, asymmetric information undermines efficiency through pre-contractual adverse selection and post-contractual moral hazard. To wrap up, this presentation has connected consumer behavior, firm behavior, market structure, and efficiency into one framework. To synthesize our microeconomic framework, always return to marginal optimization as your primary analytical tool. Whether equating marginal utility per dollar across consumption bundles or equating marginal revenue to marginal cost for firm profitability. Across all market structures, society continually balances total surplus maximization against equity and distributional fairness. As you review, focus on three central applications: analyzing firm operating and shutdown decisions, determining how price elasticity dictates the incidence and welfare impacts of tax policy, and evaluating the comparative efficiency losses across the entire spectrum of market structures. The main lesson is that thinking at the margin is central to economic analysis. As you review, focus on how price, incentives, and structure determine outcomes across different market settings.